for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 332 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I am your host, of course, Jeff Lambert, and you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we are live every Wednesday night on the Going for Two Live podcast network. We're here on Facebook Live, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. If you are on YouTube watching this right now, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps us out with our numbers. Really appreciate that if you can hit that for us. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. What's up, Ryan?
Not much, man. Happy to be drafting and doing all that fun football stuff right now. It feels real. Yes. I feel like once that Scott Fishbowl comes around and everybody's drafting and talking football, everything is like alive and it seems close. It's great.
Everything is right with the world. And we're all like chopping at the bit to draft. Like, man, my drafts are moving slow, but then we're always disappointed when it's over with. Like, now we got to wait a whole month before the season starts. That's
why I'm starting like two to three best balls every week too, just so I'm like, my crackhead habits are filled in.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, our guests tonight, both of them had been on the show before. Our first one, Mr. Matt Donnelly. He's the founder and a host on the Fantasy Vipers Network. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Donnelly FF. What's up, Matt?
Hey, I'm doing good here. I'm ready to get going here. I love these historical drafts that we're going to talk about here a little bit. We're going to kick it old school. That's kind of like me. I mean, the gray beard, it's starting to really come in right now, that time of year. So winter is coming already. Winter is coming. I got to get ready. I got to prepare myself.
Winter is coming in the middle of July. Love it.
It's like halfway to Christmas now, isn't it?
All right. Also joining us tonight, Rahul. He's a writer from Going for Two and a host of our newest show, The Fantasy Assessment, on the Going for Two Live Network. You can follow him on Twitter at nrahul11. What's up, Rahul?
How's it going, everyone? Jeff, Ryan, Matt. Nice to chop it up with all of you guys. Winter is coming is resonating with me actually because I just started a rewatch of Game of Thrones. So nice. You know, whenever I heard that, I gotta hit the counter. So yeah, I'm doing well and excited to get into the show with you guys.
Good stuff. All right, real quick, Matt, give us a quick rundown of what y'all do over at the Vipers Network.
Well, it works out really well because I just concluded my 32 teams in, I think, 49 days, team-by-team previews, which wrapped up with the NFC West here. Wraps up actually officially tomorrow. So the last video is done. It's like the whole Thanos here, perfectly balanced situation. It is all good now. So that's been the biggest thing going on over on the Vipers YouTube channel, which has been our biggest kickoff here. And make sure, I'm going to give a little shout to my good friend Bob Harris and Mel Cadlick there. The Football Diehards and the Pro Football Forecast magazines are hitting new shelves right now. I've been fortunate enough the last 2 seasons to contribute to both of those. The Pro Forecast has Jalen Hurts on it. Make sure to go grab that. And the Football Diehards magazine has Justin Jefferson on it. So you catch a little bit of my writing. I don't do a whole lot of writing, but when I do, it goes to publication. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I like that. All right. Rahul, give us a quick rundown of what you do at Going for Two and talk about your new show.
Right, yeah. I've been writing articles for the last few months. Need to get back on that grind. I've been slacking a little bit, I will have to say myself. But we did just launch a new show that I'm co-hosting, The Fantasy Assessment. My co-host, Jerry Wilkie, where we actually break down people submitted teams. That is probably my favorite part of Dynasty, especially, and then maybe we'll get some Scott Fishbowl submissions, some redraft submissions as we get into the season. But I just love thinking about teams and potential moves, and with Dynasty, of course, the long-term aspect. So yeah, you should definitely check out, everyone watching here, check out the fantasy assessment if you want your team analyzed by myself and Jerry. And, we're going to be bringing guests onto the show as well. Hop into the Discord channel. We'd love to break down your teams.
Good stuff. Absolutely. All right, guys. Today's show, as always, brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their leading best ball leagues with huge tournaments, private leagues, and pick'ems for every major sport. Sign up using our promo code GF2 and get a deposit match up to $100. Simple as that. Sign up, use promo code GF2 when you can start drafting your best ball teams. Ryan mentioned before the show that he's doing like 2 best ball leagues a week at least to get those in there before the season starts because, we're doing the Scott Fish Bowl right now, so we're all drafting. And that month of August, we got preseason and everything else. It's good to be drafting and getting ready for your redraft leagues as well. So make sure you get in there, use our promo code GF2. You deposit $100 and they give you a free $100 to use. So you have $200 to go play. So it's a lot of fun. And on the show tonight, we're actually going to do some other pick'ems as well. So you can see how that works. So tonight, as we're doing all the month of July, we're doing our I Hate Division previews, which this name came up because as a content, before I was a content creator and I was a content consumer, I always hated division previews. I was always skip past them on the podcast. I did not like them. I always felt that they were kind of boring. They kind of just glazed over the top couple of good players and people that you already kind of knew. So when I started to do content creation, I tried to find a better way to sort of present it. And me and Ryan came up with doing drafts of just the division itself. And it kind of touches on the redraft guys. And then when you get to that second round, things get kind of ugly. You get into those dynasty, gems that you're trying to get. So it's a good way to sort of present the division preview. So we're doing the NFC and the AFC West divisions tonight. But as always, we kick off the show with our nonsense draft.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
What we're doing for our nonsense draft during the division previews, because we don't have time to get to our forgotten fantasy player at the end of every show like we normally do, we kind of combined the nonsense draft and the forgotten fantasy player into one. So we're going to be drafting retired players from the 2 divisions that we're drafting tonight, so the NFC and the AFC West. We get to bring them back to our fantasy teams in their prime. So we're going to do the NFC West and the AFC West, and Matt, we're going to do one QB for this draft, for the nonsense draft, just so we can get some of the skill players in here. But Matt, you've got the 101 here. Go ahead and kick us off.
Well, I'm going to avoid the quarterback play because I don't like to draft quarterbacks, especially when we look at 3 of the greatest running back seasons of all time for fantasy come out of this division. You've got LaDainian Tomlinson, you've got Marshall, you got Folk there, and you've also got Priest Holmes. I mean, we can even go like how deep do you want to go? Like how far back do you want to go? Because this is absolutely loaded with running back potential. But when I think about my number 101 here, I got to go with LaDainian Tomlinson, who back in that 2006 season put up 481.6 fantasy points. That is absolutely crazy. And people forget, number 10 on this list of all time is my man, Steven Jackson. Remember we talked about him last time I was on this show? He makes this list too. He's also in this division. So there's going to be some good players that don't make the cut. But at 101, it's going to be LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, that could potentially be, if we were doing a fantasy draft just overall, it could potentially be the number 1 overall ever. He was just that damn good. So yeah, great 101. Pretty much.
Silly me thought he was going to fall.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck, Ryan.
And you know what? He's not even the number 1 running back in this division. I mean, we're not even going to talk about Frank Gore, right? Number 3 rusher all time. He's not even going to be drafted right now. He's going to go undrafted. Yep. That is how good this position is.
Absolutely insane. All right, Rahul, you got the 102 here.
Right. So if you've heard me on a show before, you might be a little familiar with my history with football, the NFL, which is very, very limited. I only started watching football at all in 2021. So my self-imposed rules on this wasn't to go too far back. I'm actually going to go with one, and people watching might say I'm dropping the ball a bit at the 102, but I'm going to go with Todd Gurley, who's a player that I have, personally looked into myself even before my time with going for 2. Something that came, back maybe into the conversation a bit this year in rookie draft season with the situation surrounding Tajay Spears. I mean, if Spears has even half a good career as Gurley, then he would have been a great draft pick. But that's who I'll take at the 102.
Yeah, that's a great pick, and Gurley was great for those couple of years. It's crazy to me how fast he fell off. Like he went from being like, easily the 101 in every draft to pretty much undrafted a couple of years later, which is crazy. But great pick there at the 102. The 103, we're just going to stay with that same team, and I'm going to go Marshall Faulk. Matt mentioned him earlier. He was, I think, my first ever fantasy draft player, and I drafted him in back-to-back years, and I won back-to-back championships the first 2 years I ever played fantasy football. So it's a special place in my heart for Mr. Marshall Faulk and that whole offense. That was just a magical year. Of course, Kurt Warner coming out of the grocery store to win a Super Bowl is definitely one of the greatest stories of all time, but Marshall Faulk had a lot to do with that. So give me the 103 here, Marshall Faulk. Ryan, you got number 4 here.
I can't believe you passed up Jerry Rice. Like, what do you have? 15, 16,000 yard seasons in his career. He's had more 1,000-yard seasons than most receivers play now. And you can pick any year, just throw a dart, and you have elite fantasy production. He's the greatest receiver ever. And I thought he was going to go to the 101. I can't believe he's still there. Jeff, you're a terrible 49ers fan.
I had to take Marshall Faulk, man. You got to go with the running backs in this format. But, just talking about Jerry Rice, there was a tweet that I saw, and I can't think of all the stats, but there was a stat where it gave a mystery player and his stats, and then it compared them to the guys that are good now, and it compared their stats, and like which guy would you take? And the obvious choice was the mystery player, which ended up being Jerry Rice, but Jerry Rice after the age of 30, which is crazy to think about. That they just took his stats from the age of 30 on, and he was still better than some of the guys' full careers. Which is insane. 1,200, 1,500, 1,400, 1,800, 1,200. Injury, 1,100. That was ages 30 through 36. Yep. And he had the 22 touchdowns that, Randy Moss famously broke, but he did it in 12 games. It was a strike-shortened season. He did 22 touchdowns in 12 games. It's insane. I mean, that's 2 touchdowns a game. But yeah, Jerry Rice, he's my favorite player of all time. I would have drafted him here.
Apparently he's not, and you hate it.
Favorite fantasy player and favorite NFL player, 2 different things. Yeah, Jerry Rice is what got me into football. Like without Jerry Rice, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now because I just loved him growing up. All right, enough about Jerry Rice here. Matt, you got the 105.
So I had to think about this because I need to know what the parameters are on this whole thing, because you want the player in their peak, but they only had to play for a team in these 2 divisions, right? Is that kind of the theory here? So in theory, I could go for a player who's played for both San Francisco and the Raiders here and put him back into his peak. So I could take peak Randy Moss, who played for both the Raiders and the 49ers, and still be laughing at, right? I mean, that's what we could do.
Fair enough. That's absolutely right.
I mean, he was doo-doo when he played for those teams, but yeah.
He was crap. He was horrible. He was horrible. But you said I could take the player at the peak as long as they played for those teams. Yep. I mean, but saying that, there's so many good receivers that we're not going to talk about in this draft. And they're going to get bypassed. I could probably grab one of these great receivers in the 3rd round moving forward. I do want to touch base here before you talk about Jerry Rice here a little bit. If Tim Brown had Joe Montana and Steve Young, he would have been Jerry Rice. I'm going to put it that way. That's how good Tim Brown really was. But I want to get a positional advantage here. And I'm going to take Tony Gonzalez here. I'm going to the tight end position here because there's only a couple tight ends that are elite, that had elite seasons here. Actually, there's 3 of them, really. But I might just go tight end premium, just take them all like people are doing in Scott Fishbowl. And Tony Gonzalez was a difference maker. So I got myself the number 1 running back. I got myself the number 1 tight end. And I can make an argument that there's going to be a good, solid quarterback a little bit later because that's where it kind of balances out because no one can take Patrick Mahomes. But there's some pretty good retired quarterbacks that we could select from as well.
And Gonzalez was a great pick, but there's another guy in these divisions too that could also be up there for the number 1 tight end. So I'll leave him unmentioned in case he gets drafted. But Rahul, you're up here at the 106.
Right, and I'm going to go with a complete homer pick, a fellow alumni of the University of California, Berkeley. Go Bears. I'm going to take Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch. I've probably watched the Beast Quake highlight, I don't know, 5-6 times myself. He probably has no business going at the 106 here, but I will go with my man.
Beast Mode. That's a great choice. He's on my list as well. But it's so hard in this division. Like I'm looking at this list, like I mean, there's so many ways I can go here.
I could argue that Marshawn Lynch isn't even the top 2 running backs out of Seattle all the time.
Yeah, you're right. It's crazy because Sean Alexander should have been also on that list as well. So
and you can make an argument for Ricky Waters being in there too. Played for multiple teams in the AFC.
Yep,
I mean, technically Seattle was in the AFC from 1977 to 2001. So they're in the AFC West, and then they went over to the NFC West. So they kind of touched it all. We should be talking more about the Seahawks on this show.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned the Seahawks. Well, I guess that was the first one there. All right, so I'm up here at the 107, and man, there are some good players left on this list still. I think I'm going to go with another guy that I drafted and won a championship with, and he's in an elite club in the 2,000-yard club, Mr. Terrell Davis with Denver Broncos. Had a couple of really good seasons, very similar to Todd Gurley, where he was just great for like a very short amount of time and then kind of fell off very quickly with injuries. But Terrell Davis, that 2,000-yard season was absolutely magical, and I had him on my team, and it was a great run to a championship. It would have been my 3rd championship that year, so a little special place in my heart for TD as well. All right, Ryan, close us out here.
Bro, I'm keeping it 0 RB because there's so much talent at the position. And I already have the number 1 leading receiver of all time. Might as well make it number 2. Give me Larry Fitz. I mean, what can you say? Amazing career. One of the best receivers to ever play the game. And he caught everything that's ever been thrown his way.
Yeah, that's a pretty good tandem you got there of receivers for sure. A couple guys that went undrafted that I thought could get drafted. Isaac Bruce is here. Torrey Holt is here. Antonio Gates, who was the other tight end I was alluding to earlier. Jamal Charles, Demarius Thomas, rest in peace. And then we could have gone quarterbacks if we'd gone long enough. You got Joe Montana, who played for 2 different teams in these divisions. Steve Young.
Dude, Steve Young, like the original Konami code.
Yep, absolutely. Even Roger Craig was on my list here because, I mean, he was the dual threat before there was dual threat at running back. He was kind of the starter of that. I think he had 100 catches one year for a running back was unheard of back then.
Well, and I like to play the cheating here because you could have gone with Emmitt Smith or Edgerrin James, who made their way down to Arizona to play for the Cardinals at one point. We didn't even touch about the Raiders backs of Bo Jackson in his prime and Marcus Allen. I mean, we could have gone there.
Yep.
You keep hyping up Terrell Owens, but we don't talk about another one of these great receivers. Terrell Owens instead of Jerry Rice or Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, there's so much talent that we missed out. Kellen Winslow Sr., Shannon Sharp at the tight end position. So much depth when we look at everything that kind of went down. I mean, we can go old school here. We go Kurt Warner, Norm Van Bronklin. I mean, how old do you want to kick it here? So much talent between these 2 divisions.
Absolutely. All right. Now we're going to get into our current drafts here. Let me hit the drop real quick.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
All right. So if you haven't watched these before, the way we do it, we do one division at a time. We're doing the AFC West this time, and we will do it from a super flex standpoint on these drafts to give us some more players to choose from. And we can only draft players from that division. We'll do 2 rounds, essentially, a 12-team league. And we'll do it just like a fancy draft. We'll do it snake draft. And Matt, you got the 101 in this one as well. So go ahead and give us your 101 in the AFC West. As if I didn't know who it was.
Again, I'm going positional here off the get-go because the drop-off of the tight end position, it's very noticeable. And I know you guys are thinking Patrick Mahomes here, but listen, Justin Herbert is going to be good. Russell Wilson, I think, is going to have a bounce back here. And Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be satisfactory when he gets in the lineup. But when I look at the tight end position, Gerald Everett, Austin Hooper, Michael Mayers, Greg Dulcich, they don't move the needle for me. They are not sweatpant movers. I'm sorry. Give me Travis Kelce. It's that easy with the 101 here. Whether it's super flex or not, I look at these quarterbacks. I'm like, I think I can hold off there. And I look at the tight ends. I'm like, no, I don't want these guys.
That's a good one. I did not expect that at all. I thought for sure that's Patrick Mahomes coming off the board. All right, so you got the 102 here, Rahul. I think you just got a gift.
I certainly did, but I mean that's how you know it's Scott Fishbowl season. I mean, Kelce went 101 in my draft actually, and probably in a lot more. The tight end scoring really is OP in that league. But yeah, I will accept this gift with open arms and take Patrick Mahomes myself. I mean, what more can you say? I think this will be an interesting year for, the standard 1 QB leagues, seeing the likes of, Hurts, Allen, and of course Mahomes going, by mid-third round in most. I'd expect in most leagues, but in super flex, certainly I will be taking Mahomes here.
Good stuff. And real quick, I put on this comment here because it's kind of a momentous occasion. So we are actually streaming live on a new streaming service called Kick.com, and this is our first comment from that streaming service. I'm going to butcher the name, but Loki XLVI. I don't know what that stands for, but they are the first comment from Kick.com. So I wanted to put that up on screen. It's kind of cool. It's a new service that I'm trying to see if we can get some foothold in. It's been gaining some traction. So if you're on Kick.com, you can now find us there as well. All right, I am up at the 103 here, and again, my pick I think is pretty easy. I'm not going to get cute, and I'm going to take the other quarterback that I think is elite. I'll take Justin Herbert here. Had a quote unquote down season last year, and I don't know if that's really what you can call it, but I think they will have a bounce back with all the weapons that they have there. Justin Herbert is a beast, and I think he was one of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks taken in the Scott Fish Bowl too. So, yeah, I'll take Herbert here at the 103. Ryan, you got the 104.
Well, that quarterback pool ended up getting gross quick. So I'm going to take Austin Eckler. I mean, he's in one of the best offenses in the league. He scores touchdowns at will. He's in the BPPR magic. I'm riding my Eckler till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, that's pretty much the top 4 that I expected to come off the board, and not necessarily in that order, but those are definitely the top 4 players by far. I think there's a little bit of a teardrop at this point. And Matt, you are at the 105 here.
So I could look at running back here. There's some options there. There's some options at wide receiver that haven't been taken. If we're only going 3 rounds deep and trying to make the best lineup possible, I'm going to grab the last quarterback that I think has value here. And that's going to be Russell Wilson and go with Travis Kelce, because that gives me a quarterback that can compete, not quite at the Mahomes or the Justin Herbert level, but I know nobody can catch me as far as pass catchers, let alone tight ends, when we're looking at that. So I feel pretty good about Russell Wilson here in the second round, which gives me some good options to move forward in the third, and I feel pretty good.
Yeah, Russell Wilson is a prime bounce back candidate that you hear a lot about on Twitter. That he will bounce back with his new coaching staff, and he's got a couple new weapons to play with as well. So I like that pick there. Rahul, you got the 106.
All right, I will be leaning into positional scarcity a little bit and taking the Raiders running back Josh Jacobs. A little bit of fear now with the franchise tag situation. You hear all these reports that there is a serious doubt for his availability for week 1. But if you just follow the numbers, Jacobs should be signing the tag. He should be playing this season for the Raiders. He was really a value pick last year with him falling. I think the Zamir White hype and his he didn't get his fifth year option taken, and then I think he played in the Hall of Fame game as well. And people were really scared about Josh Jacobs, and he had a fantastic year. And he should be. It was me too, but he should be fed the ball, even if the Raiders kind of stink, which I think they will. I feel pretty good about Josh Jacobs here.
Yeah, I own way too much Zamir White because of all that news. Now I'm stuck with him in my taxi squad and most of my teams. All right, I got the 107 here. The receivers are still on the board, and there's one running back that I think is worth taking, but I will take the receiver here that I think his talent is good enough he can overcome Jimmy G. Jimmy G has never really had a receiver one, never really made one. He had Deebo Samuel, but that was really because of his rushing, not because of his receiving ability. But I do think Devontae Adams is good enough that he can overcome that, and I will take Devontae Adams here at the 107. Ryan, you got the 108.
You got to put some respect on Jimmy G's name. Come on, man. He literally made like 4 players viable in fantasy in San Francisco. George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. You know how hard that is for anybody to make 4 players viable in fantasy. I know we like to make fun of Jimmy Garoppolo because it's so easy, mostly because he's so damn good looking, and that pisses me off more than anything. As an ugly person, I find this offensive that he's so good looking. It really hurts my feelings. That being said, I mean, he knows how to distribute the ball. He knows how to get it into his good players' hands. And I like to your point here with Devontae Adams, he's going to be fine when it's all said and done because Jimmy Garoppolo does one thing well, and that's get the ball into his playmakers' hands.
Yeah, and you're right too with that good looking thing. I was at work and I was talking about football in general, and I had a girl chime in like, "Oh, I don't watch any football." She's like, "But who are you a fan of?" I'm like, "I'm the 49ers fan." And she's like, "Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo." I'm like, "You don't follow football, but you know who he is." All right, let's see where we at. So we're at we at 109 now. No, we're at.
All I know is I'm up.
Yeah, we're at
108.
108. You're up, Ryan.
I am taking another old reliable guy on a good offense, and that's Keenan Allen. I know he's kind of just slipped, but he was still on pace before his injury for 151 targets last year. His yards per game was as high as it's been the last 6 years. He's going to be on the field. He's going to be the number one receiver there. He always gets open. He's a technician when it comes to route running, so that's not going to just disappear when he hits that 30 age. And that offense is just high-powered, so I'm going to go with Allen.
Yeah, I like that call, and you're right. I mean, those guys that are just really good route runners, guys like Jerry Rice, we talked about him earlier in the show, where his athletic ability didn't overwhelm anybody, but he was just so good at route running that he was able to get himself open. I think Keenan Allen kind of falls into that range where he was never the most athletic guy, never the most, never the fastest guy, but he just knows how to run routes and get open.
Yeah, get open.
All right, Matt, you got the ninth pick here.
Hey, I'm all about stacking upon stacking here. And I'm telling you right now, if we are playing like a best ball type approach here, this is the final round, whatever you want to call it, or the last little bit here. I look around, I go, Patrick Mahomes, I've got Travis Kelce, so I've already eliminated that. And Rahul, he's basically eliminated any other person here because he's got Patrick Mahomes, so I don't have to worry about that. You got Justin Herbert. Ryan's gone off and got Keenan Allen. They kind of take care of one another. So I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy with Russell Wilson. And I'm going to say these guys are going to get cooking here this season. We had Robert Turbin on the show just a couple weeks back, and he was all in on Russell Wilson having a bounce back with Sean Payton. I mean, if you can't have a bounce back with Sean Payton, a guy that made Jameson Winston and Taysom Hill winning quarterbacks for the New Orleans Saints, then you're probably done. Your career is probably over at this point. If you're being outplayed by Taysom Hill, ride off into the sunset, Russell Wilson. Let's ride way the hell out of here, okay? That's how easy it is when we break it down.
Yeah, I love Jeudy this year. I think he does have a bounce back. I think he actually kind of came on the end of last year that people don't realize how good he was at the end of last year. And I think if he can carry that into this year with what we think will be a better offensive, style, I think he's definitely got wheels up for sure. All right, Rahul, you got this as your last pick in the first round here.
Yeah, I really want to lock this guy up. And if this was a real draft, I'd probably be slapping myself at the end of the season. But I'm going to take Kadarius Toney. Oh boy,
you're gonna be slapping yourself in week number 2,
and we've been canceled by Giants fans.
Yeah, I mean, the story I just saw this must have been yesterday, was that Kadarius Toney came out and said his Twitter had been hacked, and someone else had been sending voice messages with his actual voice to Giants fans.
Oh wow,
saying some pretty foul things. A lot of off the field stuff, a lot of concern with injuries. This guy has hamstrings of glass, but what I will say is the talent seems undeniable. The things he can do on a football field when he's, fit for 4 games a year. I really do like the talent of Toney. I will probably be slapping myself at the end of the year for my belief, but I'll take him right here.
Yeah, it's a good call. He definitely has the upside. We've seen him flash quite a bit when he's healthy. And I've said it on this podcast multiple times. You're only injured until you're not. So if he can find a way to be healthy, then it's wheels up for him in that offense with Patrick Mahomes. All right, it's my last pick here in the first round. Starting to get a little ugly now. There's one running back left that's pretty easy choice here. And I'm going to go Javonte Williams. I know everybody's worried about his injury a little bit. I think he's going to be fine. We've seen in the Sean Payton offense how often the running backs get targeted in the passing game. That's only going to help Javonte Williams. I think, Williams was on pace to be really good last year before his injury. Hopefully he comes back fully healthy and ready to roll. But even if he misses a couple of games at the beginning of the season, I think he still comes back and he's the man in this offense. So Williams is my pretty easy pick here at the 111. Ryan, you got the back-to-back here. You got the 12, and then the 201.
Matt was about to say. Matt, were you trying to say something? Or am I hearing things? No,
I was until people left the door wide open on the porch.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ryan. You're ready.
I'm going to take that handsome bastard, Jimmy G. Worst case scenario, he's playing hero ball at the end of the games because the Raiders defense is pure unadulterated garbage. And he still has weapons there with Devontae Adams. And then I'm going to follow it up in the next round with Isaiah Pacheco. He really started getting action come the playoffs and late in the season in that offense. And he was really hitting his groove, especially late. And when players do well in the playoffs, that means the team trusts him. And I'm on a guy who I think could start for one of the best offenses in the league.
All right. Two great picks there. So I'm up here at the 202, and you give me a chance to talk about, once again, my Super Bowl MVP for my fantasy team this year. I picked him up in the middle of the season before the trade deadline for a third-round pick, just because I needed somebody to start in my lineup because I was trying to tank and basically ended up winning a championship with
humble brag
with Sam Darnold and Jerick McKinnon as my running back, and so I'll take McKinnon here. Obviously, he's the pass catcher in this offense. This is a pass-first offense, so if you can get a pass-catching running back and a pass-first offense in the second round, I think I'm doing pretty good there. So give me Jerick McKinnon at the 202. Rahul, you got the 203.
Yeah, and just to tag on to your last pick, Jeff, everyone should check out the first episode of Fantasy Assessment where we actually broke down Jeff's team, and it is a beauty. It is an absolute beauty. You really can't believe that he secured the bag with that team, but it all makes sense with Jerick McKinnon, who is what I think RB6 maybe in the last 8 weeks, or something crazy like that.
Yep.
Yeah, but here starting to get a little bit nasty, but I will take a player that I actually did pick up in the Scott Fish Bowl, and that's Mike Williams. Someone who is, by definition, very boom or bust, but even with the threat of Quentin Johnston coming into the team, I do have a lot of faith in the Chargers this year with Kellen Moore coming over from Dallas. I think back to Justin Herbert, and he got really banged up at the start of the year. A lot of injuries to the wide receiver room, and I think this is a team that should be back to amongst the highest powered offenses in the NFL. So I will take his wide receiver to at least first half of the year, hopefully.
Yeah.
And Mike Williams.
Yeah, that's a good pick because at one point last year, I think, like you said, the couple of games at the beginning of the season, he was like the receiver one.
Right.
At one point, so he was killing it, and then all of a sudden they just forgot about him, which tends to happen, unfortunately. All right, Matt, you got the 204 here.
Well, the 204, I'm going to take the Rashawn Johnson of the AFC West here, and I'm going to go with my guy Samaje Perine because I think Sean Payton is a liar. There's no way Javonte Williams' knee is ready to go. This reminds me of J.K. Dobbins last season, and Ryan, you know exactly what I am talking about. By the way,
we don't speak of him.
Love J.K. Dobbins this year. Love J.K. Dobbins. He's going to have a huge year. Javonte Williams had multiple ligaments damaged in that knee. Could he be ready week one? Sure, he could be ready, but I'm not right there. I don't think it's going to happen. He's not Adrian Peterson. He's not this cyborg out there. But here, you know who was good? Samaje Perine, who filled it admirably with Joe Mixon. There's a reason why Denver went out there and secured the bag with Samaje Perine. Take a look around. Follow the money here. They're also included in the Dalvin Cook sweepstakes. You don't get in the Dalvin Cook sweepstakes here. Talk about Dalvin Cook coming to your team if you believe that Javonte Williams is going to be 100%. You simply don't do that. That being said, again, I'm going to name drop. We had Robert Turbin on the show who happened to play with one Russell Wilson, who also happened to be a running back at the Seattle Seahawks. He actually prefers Perine over Javonte Williams straight up. You can catch that soundbite there on the Vipers Network. He says it might be a hot take here, but Samaje Perine is going to outscore Javonte Williams this season. Why? Because Russell Wilson is a check down to touchdown quarterback. He's not going to throw stupid balls into coverage, except in the Super Bowl, and hope for the best, right? He's going to check down. And one thing that Samaje Perine can do is catch the ball out of the backfield. Jeff, you alluded to Sean Payton's offenses having those pass-catching running backs. You know who else has pass-catching running backs? Joe Lombardi, who happens to be the Denver Broncos offensive coordinator. He was there with Austin Eckler back in the Charger days. Lombardi is going to make sure that these backs are going to catch balls out of the backfield. I would be surprised if Samaje Perine, by the way, if you're still drafting your Scott Fishbowl like I am in round number 6, Perine should be one of those guys you should be targeting a little bit later because he's going to be that guy for the Denver Broncos, in my opinion. Yeah,
and going back to that Sean Payton offense, one thing that we kind of didn't like as his offense was the fact that he ran the RBBC almost exclusively. So there's a good chance that Javonte Williams and Perine are good in fantasy because of the way he runs his offense. He'll mix them up in there, and both of them will be valuable. Great pick there. Ryan, back to you at the 205.
I'm going to take a chance just because we're here. That draft capital, we're hearing the talk that he's already the wide receiver 3, and I don't fully believe in Mike Williams because of how boom or bust he is, and that's Quentin Johnston. That team believes in him. Again, I'm going back. So I'm just going to the well, this offense being high-powered. And I want a guy who brings that explosiveness to a team that's just kind of a big-bodied receiver and route runner. He's something that the team doesn't have. And I like to shoot for players who bring something different because that gets them playing time when they're young.
Yeah, that's where I would have gone there, too. I'm not a big QJ fan either, but at this point in the draft, he has the most upside, I believe, of the guys on the board still. So great pick there. I'm up here at the 206, and only one tight end has come off the board so far, so I will go back to the tight end well. And this guy is actually my tight end 1 in the Scott Fishbowl, which is a little scary. I kind of got to a point where no man's land where I was like, oh, I guess I'm punting tight end. I kept getting sniped. So Greg Dulcich is my tight end 1 in Scott Fishbowl, so I really hope that he has a season where we've seen a little bit of Sean Payton with when he had Jimmy Graham using the tight end, but other than that, he didn't use the tight end very often. I'm hoping Dulcich is good enough to be used in this offense and has some viability. So give me Dulcich here at the 206. Rahul, back to you at the 207.
Right. I really like that pick, by the way, Jeff. I think there was a recent Payton interview where he described Dulcich as a potential joker in his offense, and then compared him to like some of the pass catching backs he's had, like Kamara, someone that they're going to be looking for to scheme specific mismatches for. And I think Dulcich could really break out in this offense. That is who I was probably going to go for, but I will take a player who got traded into or signed into the AFC West this year, and that's Jacoby Myers. Moving over from the Patriots to the Raiders, into a system that he should be familiar with, into feasibly the vacated targets of Darren Waller, who did have his injury issue. So how many targets are there? But he seems like he should be a reliable wide receiver 2 in a team that shouldn't be great, so should throw more in theory. Could be a nice little PPR magnet, so I will go with Jacoby Myers there.
Yeah, the PPR part of it is definitely key there because that guy does not score touchdowns.
Not at all.
All right, Matt, you got the 208 here, and it's getting ugly.
Oh, it's been ugly for a while. When you're drafting like in the second round, Jacoby Myers, that's a problem right there. I love myself some Jacoby Myers. I think he's a fantastic addition for this Raiders team. The problem is I don't know who's going to play slot. Both him and Hunter Renfrow are slot receivers. Neither one of them has had success on the outside. And I'm looking at Jacoby Myers more so on the outside because of his size compared to Hunter Renfrow. And we know what Hunter Renfrow can do with those two-way goes. So I think Hunter Renfrow is going to play the slot. I think Jacoby Myers is going to be kicked outside. And I think that's going to be one of those things where it's going to be detrimental to Myers' production. That being said, I'm swinging for some upside here. You went with Kadarius Toney. I don't think he's going to play more than 2 weeks this season. So I'm going to go with, you got him highlighted, Jeff. I'm going to go with Sky Moore, who had a very disappointing rookie season. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it right now. I could use other words and adjectives. I could throw them in there. But listen, Sky Moore has every opportunity to be that number 1 wide receiver in Kansas City. Wide receiver, not pass catcher. Notice how I'm making the distinction there. I don't even think he's going to be the number 3 pass catcher. There's Jerick McKinnon and there's Travis Kelce. I think Sky Moore is the most talented pass catcher in this wide receiver room as far as hands are concerned and what he can do and his availability. Your best ability is your availability, something that Tony doesn't have. Then it comes down to Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. MVS, you are what you are at this point. We know exactly what he is. He's going to give you a boom and bust week where he's going to go for 150 yards on 2 catches and score 2 touchdowns, and then he's not for another fantasy point for the next 3 weeks. That's who MVS is. Best ball? Sure, why not? This kind of draft? Not a chance. So I did think about Rashee Rice there, but I think this is going to be Sky Moore's year. I really do. I like how everything's kind of setting up for him. Hearing good things coming from Patrick Mahomes. And again, he's been talking up Justin Ross as well, who I don't see on this list here, so I have to kind of avoid him altogether. But I'm going to go with Sky Moore because I think, get it? The sky is the limit.
Yeah. Oh, I hate you, Garrison.
Or we need more out of Sky in 2023.
Nice. And I think whoever has the, I don't know if you can call it luck or if they happen to have some sort of insight, but if you can guess the right Chief to play each week, you're going to be good, but good luck. I mean, you mentioned Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS, Rashee Rice is there, Justin Ross. One of those guys is going to come and be good, but each week it could be a different guy. So, but yeah, I think it's a great pick at this point in the draft as well. Ryan, you're up here at the 209 and your last pick of this draft.
I'm going with a player that everybody really, really hates right now, even though he still had 800 yards last year on an offense that couldn't call plays, and that's Courtland Sutton. Like, there's nothing exciting about him. He's just underperformed his whole career, but he's also been kind of a shit show. And now they brought in Sean Payton. Hopefully Russ can get back to his ways. And at this point, I'd much rather take a chance on that skill set than anything at this point.
Yeah, there was a point last year in daily fantasy where Courtland Sutton was actually a play. Like, he was getting targeted like crazy earlier in the season, and then he just kind of fell apart and disappeared, and that whole offense fell apart. But
that was the Jerry Jeudy effect.
Yeah, it was a little bit the Jerry Jeudy effect, and a little bit.
Look at Courtland Sutton splits with and without Jerry Jeudy. It is night and day.
Yeah, that's a good call. All right, I'm up at the 210 here in my last pick in this draft, and there is really a lot of hot garbage in this draft at this point. So I will go with the assumption we mentioned. Myself and Ryan, we're not a huge fan of Quentin Johnson. So if he was to stumble or come out and not be what they had drafted him to be, there's another guy that could step into that role, has some success already in that offense, and that's Mr. Josh Palmer. If he gets that number 3 role there, he's shown that he can kind of fill in for either Mike Williams or Keenan Allen. So in this offense, at this point in the draft, he has the most upside, in my opinion. So give me Josh Palmer here at the 210. And Rahul, you got the 211.
Right. It is, I think, hot garbage is the way to describe the board. So I'm actually going to go off board looking for upside and go with an undrafted rookie, the running back Deneric Prince. So my dynasty heads is probably have heard of this guy, and there has been a little bit of chatter here and there coming out of the Chiefs camp about Prince. Great physicals, again, undrafted. There is a bit of a similarity to Isaiah Pacheco, who found himself in this situation last year. And if he does profile as someone who would come in for Pacheco if Pacheco went down, McKinnon is probably still the back you really want to own there. But at this stage of the draft, I'm gonna swing for the fences here.
Good stuff. I like that pick. I didn't have him on my sheet either, so I like it. All right, Matt, close out the AFC West for us here. Who you got?
That was a great pull there. Prince is a freak of nature, size, speed. He's got everything you could possibly want there. For me, I mean, I look at this here, and I could swing for some upside here with one of the rookies that's still on board, Rashee Rice, but I got Sky Moore, and I don't want to cannibalize that. I could go Marvin Mims, but I don't really want to take away from Jerry Jeudy because I think Marvin Mims is the most explosive pass catcher that this Broncos team is going to have, especially if Russell Wilson can get the ball deep. Marvin Mims is one of those guys who can attack the seams and get down there. But you know what? Like I said, I don't trust Jacoby Myers on the outside, and we know what kind of arm Jimmy Garoppolo has. Garoppolo doesn't have that arm that is going to push the ball down the field, so he's going to look to target the underneath. So that leaves me with Michael Myers or Hunter Renfrow, and I think Hunter Renfrow is going to give you the best value right now. And if you look at a lot of your drafts right now, you're getting him in the 15th, 16th round. I mean, Hunter Renfrow has really turned into a value. People forget he's just a couple seasons removed from a 1,000-yard season when him and Darren Waller each had 1,000 yards there with Derek Carr. Obviously, Hunter Renfrow had some injuries there last season. But that being said, Hunter Renfrow's in a good position. You mentioned earlier that this Raiders team is going to have to pass. Their defense is coming along. It's not there yet, so they're going to be playing comeback in a lot of these contests. Don't forget, this Raiders team, everyone wants to knock this Raiders team. They literally had, I think, 7 games in which they blew double-digit leads in the fourth quarter last season, which was the most in the league. You want to know why Derek Carr is gone? That is why right there, because you couldn't hold on to a lead in the fourth quarter when you have Josh Jacobs. Just run the damn ball, Josh McDaniels. Run the ball. It's not that hard. That being said, I'm going to take Hunter Renfrow here. Long story short, Hunter Renfrow.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great pick there. And he had that connection with Derek Carr, but he can definitely get that with Jimmy G as well. I think he's the underneath guy, and Jimmy G looks that way a lot. So that's a great pull there. All right, I got some bad news, guys. Going for Two's personal league podcast for 2023 have all sold out. We literally sold every single day of our personal league podcasts. However, if you order a PLP for 2024, you could save 20% with our promo code EarlyBird24. So what is a personal league podcast, you ask? It is a 1-hour live show dedicated to your fantasy league. We rank the teams worst to first. We break down each team. We give trade advice. We point out their strengths and weaknesses, even give drafting advice for those dynasty leagues. So visit goingfor2.com/PLP and use promo code EarlyBird24 to save 20%. Again, that's promo code EarlyBird24. And for less than $7 a person in the 12-man league, we will break your league down. Again, goingfor2.com/PLP, and the promo code is EarlyBird24.
Prop bet of the week.
All right, we started this segment last week. We are going to be doing some underdog. They don't want me to call it prop bets, so we're going to just call them pick'ems. They have some legal reasons that they can't call it prop bets, and they can't use over/under. We got to use higher or lower, so we'll do that as well. So I got three different legs here that are all from the West divisions. We'll go through them one at a time here. And since there's 3 of y'all, you vote which one you like. I won't get a vote, but I'll pick whatever one the consensus is, and I'll put $5 on it, and we'll roll with it. So, Ryan, since you're first up on my screen there, we're going to look at Mr. Kenneth Walker. Higher or lower 1,000.5 rushing yards. Basically, is he a 1,000-yard rusher this year? Higher or lower for him?
I know everybody's going to disagree with me because they think Zach Charbonnet is the new hotness. But you know what? He got 1,000 yards last year and only starting 11 games. He only played 15 total. He doesn't need a ton of carries to put up a lot of yards because of his big play potential. And this team wants to run the football. So I'm going higher.
Rahul, what you got for Mr. Kenneth Walker? I know you wrote a whole article on Kenneth Walker about why you didn't like him. So where are you going here with those rushing yards?
I did. And I will have to clarify. I do like Kenneth Walker. The stats are telling me not to. But I completely agree with Ryan there. 11 games started to put up 1,000 and 1,050 yards. Did come into the season after a pretty bad surgery as well. And he is a big play guy. He actually got 35% of his season total yards in 10 carries. That is the kind of player that he is. And I think 1,000 yards, I do like that. It's dangerous, but I would go higher as well.
All right, Matt, are we sweeping it, or are you going to go higher, or are you going to go lower on Mr. Kenneth Walker?
I'm going to go lower.
Ooh.
I think that Zach Charbonnet is a real threat to Walker in 2023. I think the Seattle Seahawks are a better team with Charbonnet and Walker in the backfield. I don't think this helps Walker. And it's not just the Charbonnet addition here. It's also the Jackson Smith and Jigba part. So you add 2 offensive weapons to this offense. I know Pete Carroll wants to run the ball. He wanted to run the ball last season, but when your top 2 running backs get injured, and Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker, and you're left with Travis Homer and DJ Dallas, running the ball is no longer an option. So they threw it a lot more than they wanted to last season. If they do want to throw it, Zach Charbonnet is actually the better pass-catching back than what Kenneth Walker is. And I think we're going to see them where they're going to split touches here in the backfield. I think he's going to be close to that mark, but I'm going to say 980 yards for Kenneth Walker here in 2023.
All right. Did he convince either of you two to change your pick? If not, we're going to go higher on this one. Nope.
I'm locking in higher.
All right, we're staying higher. All right. They also do this thing called rivals, where you get to pick two players in a head-to-head sort of thing and pick whatever one does better. Sometimes I give the other player a little bit of a bump, but in this next one here, it's just straight up receiving touchdowns. Who has more, Marquise Brown or Brandon Ayuk? And we'll start from the bottom this time. So Matt, you get to go first here. Which one you got?
Oh man, I want to go Marquise Brown. I really do. I really do. The target share at 29% without DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup, it screams value, but I don't know who's going to throw the ball. Is it going to be Clayton Tooney? Is it going to be Colt McCoy? I mean, if we're lucky, Kyler Murray comes back in week number 6. If he comes back at all, because his team is going to be hot trash. I can't see that. I don't even know if the Cardinals are going to win a game this season. So give me Brandon Ayuk just by default here. And Ayuk is a good player, by the way. He's probably the best receiver that the 49ers have.
All right, good stuff. Rahul, what you got for this one here? Marquise Brown or Brandon Ayuk, more touchdowns?
I will agree with Matt there. I mean, they've kind of got the opposite situations. Hollywood in an empty wide receiver room and Brandon Ayuk in probably the most crowded group of weapons in the NFL. But I think Ayuk is one of the more underrated receivers out there right now. Filthy route runner, and I will go Ayuk as well.
All right. Ryan, who are you going with here?
If this was anything other than touchdowns, like if it was targets, yards, fantasy points, I'd probably take Hollywood. But that offense stinks. They're going to have a hard time scoring, and San Francisco can move the ball down the field. So I'm going to go with Ayuk.
All right, sweeping that one. Ayuk all the way. The chat disagrees. I see a lot of Hollywood Brown fans in the chat, but you three all picked Ayuk, so we will.
It's just touchdowns. Fantasy points aren't just touchdowns.
Yep, 100%. And I agree with all three of you. I think it's Ayuk and just touchdowns. And I love Marquise Brown as well. Have him on my team in the Scott Fish Bowl, and I was targeting him in the Scott Fish Bowl because I think he will get a crap ton of targets and yards. I think there'll be a lot of empty yardage, empty targets because there won't be a lot of touchdowns to go with it. All right, last one here is rushing yards between Cam Akers and Austin Eckler, which at first glance, I was like, this is an easy one. And then you realize that Austin Eckler has never had 1,000 yards rushing in his career. And you're also getting the Cam Akers bump of 25 yards. So Austin Eckler has to rush for 26 more yards than Cam Akers in order to win this if you pick Eckler. We'll go to you first, Rahul.
Right. This was an interesting one when it popped up in the show sheet. But when I looked into it, Cam Akers quietly had 786 rushing yards last year. What was really a chaotic season. You have to wonder whether Eckler run into the ground in a contract year by the Chargers, but that's not really been his game. And as you know, one of their primary weapons, the Chargers will probably want to use him in the best way. Very tough, but I will go with Cam Akers here, especially with a 25-yard, but still a 25-yard handicap.
Yep, absolutely. Ryan, why don't you go next? What do you got here? Cam Akers, Austin Eckler.
Yikes, they're so close. They're literally 53 and 52 yards per game when they're fully healthy. Yeah. I'm going to go Akers just for the simple fact that offense has literally him up, and that's it. Total yards is different, but it's rushing yards. I think it's going to be Akers.
All right. And Matt, what you got for your answer here?
You can keep your stinking 26 points, yards, or whatever. You can keep that to yourself. I don't need that. I'm taking Cam Akers, and it's not even close. Austin Eckler is not a running back. He's a backfield receiver. That's what Austin Eckler is. He's a backfield receiver. He's not a running back. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I know it's not people don't like to hear it, but he's not that guy who's going to run between the tackles very often. He's not going to have much success. Look, Cam Akers in 5 of the final 6 round contests, Akers had a 72% snap share there. He averaged 19.1 touches, 101.8 total yards per game. And if you translate that into fantasy, that would have been RB6 from week 13 on. You know what else is great for Cam Akers compared to Austin Eckler? 100% of the carries inside the 10-yard line. Akers is going to run the ball. There's going to be a threat in Cooper Kupp that's going to get past. Teams are going to have to soften up that underneath there for Akers. The Rams line is not very good. But with Matthew Stafford back there running this offense, Akers did all this without Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp last season. Teams knew that it was Tyler Higbee and Cam Akers that you had to slow down, and they couldn't slow down Cam Akers. You throw Cooper Kupp in there, it's going to open things up for Akers. I love Akers here.
Yeah, I'm with you on the fact that I didn't need that adjustment to pick Akers. I think it's Akers all the way. So here it is. I'm putting
rushing yards. If you throw total yards in there, it's a different story. But
100%. All right, put my $5 on it for that 3-round leg there. We'll go ahead and hit the submit. Again, guys, that promo code GF2, if you want to play some pick'ems, they have a bunch of different season challenges here for Underdog. Go ahead out there and get that. And it's super easy to do, like you just saw. So, all right, so we are running long here, so we're going to jump straight into the NFC West.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
All right, we're doing the same thing here with the NFC West. We'll have to keep our analysis down just a little bit because we are running a little bit long. And I meant to give Rahul the 101 here, but somehow, Matt, you ended up with the 101 once again. You got 3 101s in this show here. So go ahead and kick us off here with the 101.
Must be nice.
I'll make it quick. I don't have to say much. Give me CMC at 101.
Yeah, that's an easy one. That's an easy choice for sure. All right, I have myself up at 102, which is also not what I wanted to do, but it is what it is.
Why do you hate Rahul? Rahul Jerry Rice. What is going on?
Yeah. All right, I was not ready to pick here, so let me see. It's gonna be easy. Cooper Kupp here at the 102. There's no other choice. He was on pace to be the receiver one again last year, and points per game was already higher than the rest of the receivers. So Cooper Kupp is an easy 102. Ryan, you got the 103.
Wow. I thought I was doing 104. I didn't look at the numbers either. I'm taking DK Metcalf. He's just consistently been good. Big play potential touchdowns. I'm happy with him.
Yeah, Metcalf is a great pick there. Yeah, I don't know what I did with this draft here. So Rahul, you got the 104 here.
I was expecting a simple Cooper Kupp and move on. Really. This is a tough one, but keeping in mind the super flex nature of this draft, I will go with the Seahawks' Geno Smith. It's kind of a nasty division actually for quarterbacks with Geno. The surprise of the year last year, and with the addition of the weapons of Smith and Jigba and even Charbonnet, as Matt talked about earlier, I'm feeling pretty good about Geno this year.
Yeah, that's a good call. I thought you were going somewhere else there, but yeah, good call with Geno. All right, Matt, back to you at the 105. A little bit harder here at this choice.
Hey, I like tight ends, and I cannot lie. Give me George Kittle here because there's no other tight ends that I want to draft on this.
Yeah, good call. Again, positional scarcity in this division it's Kittle and everybody else. All right, I'm up here at the 106, and I will take the aforementioned Cam Akers. I do think he has a good season as long as he can stay healthy. He's getting all the carries in that offense. That offense is going to be terrible. But as Jamie said in the chat, it's potentially Akers can get some of the passing yards too that he didn't get a lot of last year because they have no receivers other than Higbee and Cooper Kupp. So if he's getting passing yards too, it's wheels up for Mr. Cam Akers. Ryan, you got the 107.
I think Kenneth Walker. We kind of just talked about him earlier. That offense is going to run the ball, and he has big play potential, and is good in the red zone. I know he's not the pass catcher, but he still can make plays.
Yeah, good call. And I actually should have taken him over my guy. I was
kind of surprised by that one.
Rahul, you're up at the 108.
I'm going to go with the guy that I am kind of fading, but the NFC West is kind of stinky, huh? I'm going to go with my man, Deebo Samuel.
Nice.
Looks like 91 on this. But, ever since CMC hit town in San Francisco, we've been rightfully fading Deebo. He's going a little too high for my taste, really everywhere in ADP. But he is a special player, with what he can do on a football field. If he can just claw a few more rushing attempts back, especially at the goal line, he could be really a great value pick. But for now, I will take Deebo at the 108.
Yeah, I said earlier in the show that that Jimmy G couldn't support a receiver one, mentioning Deebo's rushing ability. But in that season, Deebo did have 1,400 receiving yards, so he's no slouch in the passing game either. He's just usually catch a short screen, take it to the house kind of guy. But yeah, that's a great pick there. Matt, you got the 109.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to kick this roster. I'm going to go old school here. I'm going to go running backs matter. Less Murray means more James Conner here. When Murray missed time, Conner would go into average like 22.5 fantasy points per game. Right now, Conner's being drafted as like RB26 after producing as the RB4. The RB4, people! The fourth running back in fantasy over the final 8 games of the season. No Murray, more Conner.
I like it. He's definitely overlooked in pretty much every draft that I've done, best ball or otherwise. He's been really overlooked. All right, I'm up at the 110 here, and I better get my quarterback before it gets really ugly, and I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford. I think he's going to have a bounce-back season. People keep calling him Matthew Stafford injury-prone, and if you look at his career, he was injury-prone early on, and then he had like an Iron Man streak where he went on like 8 straight seasons of playing all 16 games, maybe even 9 seasons. Yes, last year he had some injuries, and he's getting older. He may end up being injury prone, but if he can stay healthy, he's going to put up monster points. I'm not worried too bad about this offense being good or bad, because he put up monster points in Detroit, and we know how bad those teams were. So I think he can still do it. So give me Matt Stafford here at the 110. Ryan, you got the back-to-back here.
Taking Hollywood Brown, he had in the first 6 weeks when he was the only receiver there, he was a wide receiver 1 in half of them. And he's really the only target there. I don't really care who's quarterback. They still want to throw the ball because that defense stinks and that team stinks. So volume's king. Anyway, we talked about touchdowns earlier. It doesn't really matter with him. And then I'm taking another guy who's just consistently been been underrated his entire career and quietly was a wide receiver 13 last year. That's Tyler Lockett. I know JSN's there, but Tyler Lockett is not a volume guy, and he always gets his at the end of the year. It may not be pretty, and it might not be every week, but he's going to win some games for you.
Yeah, that's a good call. And I'm up here at the 202, and I got to ask, maybe I missed it. Did we not draft Brandon Ayuk? Is he still on the board?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a gift right there. I'm picking Brandon Ayuk here at the 202, and it's not. I'm running to the podium to take that pick there. Brandon Ayuk, I think the ADP should switch on Debo and Brandon Ayuk. I think Ayuk should be the higher drafted receiver in that offense, not Debo. But he's still here at the 202. I'll gladly take Mr. Ayuk. Matt, you got the 203.
I'm trying to figure out how Ryan ended up getting 2 picks in a row when Rahul was picking
right.
I honestly don't know what happened to this. It really got messed up here, and I was too we're too rushed to try to fix it. I don't know what I did with.
Oh, Jeff didn't put pick 12 in, which should have been Rahul.
Oh,
I had a great double pick cooking, actually. I'll get to half of it.
Yeah, you're right. Pick 12 is missing.
Rahul, you can take my number, my next pick, so you can have 4 and 5.
All right.
Well, I'm not going to get stuck holding Colt McCoy or Clayton Tooney, so I'm going to grab Brock Purdy here before you guys decide to change things up.
Yeah, good call there with Brock Purdy. And I just heard a rumor today. A friend of mine sent me a Niners article that the Falcons are trying to trade for Trey Lance, offering a conditional second-round pick. So that would make Purdy's value even better. All right, so Rahul, you have back-to-back picks here since I'm an idiot and I didn't add the 12th pick in there. So you got Ryan's pick and your pick. It was a trade. We just didn't say it.
A great trade. Thank you. The double pick I had in mind was Purdy and then Lance to shore up that situation. Now I'm a little befuddled as to what to do now.
Well, Murray and Colt McCoy is there. You can go that way.
Oh, sexy. But I'll use at least one of them to go with Tyler Higbee, who is the opposite of sexy, really, but quietly had a tight end 6 season last year, which again doesn't really mean much in the land of Travis Kelce and no one else. But in a league like the Scott Fishbowl, for example, like he is going to be a point getter. He just didn't have the touchdowns. So let's see if that changes with the full year of Matthew Stafford. And the second pick, I will hope to win the league at the end of the year and take Kyler Murray, who of course will most likely miss the year, will have affected rushing numbers due to the ACL, but we've seen what Kyler can do. Mark is very down on him, especially on Dynasty, but I do believe in the talent of Kyler.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And Tyler Higbee had 100 targets last year. You wouldn't know.
Right.
It's pretty insane to think about. And he's still the only option besides Cooper Kupp in there. So yeah, great picks. All right, so I'm up on the board at the 206, and I will take the guy that we've talked about a couple times tonight that could potentially be stealing stuff from Kenneth Walker, and I'll take Zach Charbonnet, who many people assume could steal some touches from Kenneth Walker. He is the more complete back because he's a better receiver than Kenneth Walker is. So there is that potential. So at the 206, his upside is definitely there. Matt, back to you at the 207.
Don't want it. I'll trade it for future considerations. Is that an option right now? I look at this and it's not good. I mean, you're maybe backing up your backups at best right now. And yeah, I'm going to go with the rookie here. I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba here. I mean, the options are pretty slim, and he's got the most upside of anyone remaining.
Yeah, we've been calling him JSN for so long that when I went to do the sheet, I couldn't remember his real name. I was like, we're just putting JSN in there. I could not come up with it for some reason. All right, so Rahul, you're up at the 108 or 208. Sorry.
Right. We are starting to look at backups, but in kind of a similar vein to Jacques Charbonnet, I will take Elijah Mitchell, who I think should have some sneaky flex value. If you looked at the limited sample size of the games that him and CMC played, Mitchell did get some carries. And if CMC goes down, this is the running back one on a very high-powered offense. So I will go with Mitchell here.
Yeah, that's a very good call. And if you look at the splits, even with CMC, as far as when Elijah Mitchell played and when he didn't, right. CMC had a lot less touches just in general. Now, granted, small sample size and game script kind of made took a little bit of a point there. But, yeah, I agree. Ryan, you got your last pick here in the second round.
I'm taking Trey McBride. Lack of pass catchers in Arizona. Lack of talented quarterbacks who may need really good check down options. And he kind of flourished at the end of the year and really showed some chops. Like week 16 where he had his 10 targets. We saw the heavy targets with him produce. I think that helps him a little bit. And literally it's only him and Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, that's a good pick there. And he's my tight end too in the Scott Fish Bowl. I'm hoping for that upside that we saw at the end of last year where I think he had 3 tight end 1 games in the last 5 games of the season last year. So if he can continue that, I don't think Zach Ertz will be healthy. He's a 32-year-old tight end that towards ACL in November. Best case scenario, he's back in October. By then, they're going to be a terrible team. Is Zach Ertz really going to want to come back and play? I don't know. So I'll take Trey McBride with the upside.
I wouldn't want to come back.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to start the season either. All right, I'm up at the 110, and I would take another rookie that I've been taking in all of my dynasty leagues. I think we'll sit on my taxi squad for a year or two before he really pops off. But in this format, we're looking for upside. Give me Puka Nacua. We've mentioned already how bad that receiving core is. There's not much in front of him that he needs to overcome. If he can show anything at all, he can be a decent pick here in the second round that could flourish a little bit. Matt, 211.
I mean, I don't know if I got any other option here. Looking around, no one else is going to score any fancy points here. I might as well go with Trey Lance and do what Rahul was talking about there and grab my backup quarterback, starting quarterback. Maybe I get another quarterback somewhere else. I don't know, but yeah.
Maybe he gets traded to Atlanta and then you got 2 starting quarterbacks. All right, Rahul. This one I actually gave you a 12th pick, so you get to close this out here.
Can I not? I'll go with someone who I think is actually a quiet value, and that is Van Jefferson, who 2 seasons ago quietly put up 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. Should be fully fit, which he wasn't last year. People, kind of pushing him down due to him not performing as a wide receiver 1. But I think the Rams season was chalk at that point. Van Jefferson is probably the most likely candidate left on the board to score some points. So I'll take him here.
Yeah, that's a good call there to end us out. A couple guys on the board that are sort of dynasty dart throws. You got Zach Evans, of course, backing up Cam Akers. You got Michael Wilson, who I like a lot in that Cardinals offense to be a red zone threat. He's the only big guy in that offense. Noah Fant, he was hyped up early in his career. He never really panned out, but maybe he breaks out this year. Other than that, I mean, Kyler Murray's still on the board, but none of us expect him to really play. So that's another guy that we're kind of not looking at. All right, guys, we did it. We were running up against the clock there, but we flew through that last little round there. We're only 8 minutes over an hour. That wraps up the podcast. Go around the room real quick. Give us your Twitter handle, anything you're working on, anything you want to plug. We'll go to you first, Rahul.
Right. Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks to you, Jeff, and thanks, of course, to Ryan and Matt. Had a great time this past hour. just working on articles, and of course the fantasy assessment for goingfor2.com. I'm also, trying to get on more shows and put out more content. I really admire all of your grinds to committing and putting out all of this. It's not as easy as one may think, especially staying committed. But I'm just trying to start my adventure here.
Yeah.
And you can find me at nrahul11 on Twitter.
Good stuff. Rahul's a rising star. I only started watching football in 2021. And if you read his articles, you would not know it. He's a very good stat guy. So if you haven't followed him yet, make sure you find him on Twitter. Matt, you've been doing this for a while. What you got going on?
Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff going on over on the Vipers Network. I got some other things kind of going on in the back burner here that I'm hoping will pan out. But right now, catch me on the Vipers Network. Next week, we've got Andy Holloway coming on the show to go behind the grind with us. He's going to talk about his journey in the fantasy industry. Nice. And, of course, we're going to talk about pickleball, of course, because what better way to talk in the offseason than pickleball. And I'm starting a brand new series because 32 teams in 49 days wasn't quite enough. So I'm going to start a new series called What If here. And the first episode is going to be What If Brett Favre brought Donald Driver and Greg Jennings with him to New York when he left the Green Bay Packers. We're going to look at all the different scenarios on certain things. So I'm really looking forward to that. All hypothetical, and it just gives you a little bit of a break from that fantasy football grind every once in a while. So Get ready for that series to come out shortly.
Yeah, this is the time to do it because there's not a whole lot going on. I love the content for sure. Ryan, what you got going on?
Find me Twitter, Fox534. Find me here and find me over at the Rookie Big Board.
Good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. If you are not in our Discord, it is still popping with Scott Fishbowl stuff. We don't have mock drafts going anymore, but people are posting their actual drafts, talking strategy. We have an On the Clock channel as well where you can go in and say, hey, guys, I'm on the clock. Who am I taking? So it's still popping in there. So if you haven't got in there yet, make sure you do that. You can find it on my Twitter profile. You can find it at goingfor2.com. There's a little icon in the bottom right-hand corner you can join. But go find us over there on the Discord. It is popping. For Rahul, for Matt, for Ryan, I'm Jeff, and we will see y'all next week.